Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner here on Tales of Home? We retell those moments, honest every day, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. I nudge the apartment door with my hip, and it gives a soft clack, swallowed by the hallway carpet. Cold air follows me in. The grocery handles bite my elbow. 2 quarts of milk knocked together. I set the bags on the counter and let my shoulders drop. On the table, a white carton of pad thai sweats into a ring. My laptop blinks with a buy now, pay later reminder. I don't remember signing up for payment due in 3 days. I darken the screen and nudge a napkin under the carton. Sloane is draped across the good chair phone, clipped to a ring light, a bottle of pearly polish on the armrest. One heel taps the baseboard. She doesn't look up. "Grace," she says, "make me something cute. Oat milk latte, 2 shots and the chicken sandwich with pepper jelly. Use the sourdough, my followers love the crumb." The oak table under my palms is nicked where my son cut cardboard forts when he was 9. I just got in. I say not sharp, just true. Let me put things away. She uncaps the polish and blows. "You're already in the kitchen. We're going live in a few. Quick, quick." I line the groceries. Milk, eggs, ground turkey from the sale bin. 8 straight months with rent stamped paid. "This is my lease," I say. "My name is on the checks." She finally turns her head. "You live in our home now. We let you stay because you help. So help." That lands under my skin like a splinter. Keys hit the lock. Jack eases in wearing his cafe apron and messenger bag. He takes in the groceries, the ring light, and the way I'm braced against the counter. His mouth turns thin. "What's going on?" "Your mom's being difficult," Sloane says, painting her pinky. "I asked for lunch and coffee. She's auditioning for Martyr of the Year." Jack exhales through his nose. He doesn't meet my eyes. "Mom, can you just... It's not a big thing." He nods toward the espresso machine I keep for him. "I'll grind. You toast." The old rhythm climbs my spine, go along smooth over. Be grateful no one is shouting. I press my fingertips flat until the tremor quits. "No," I say. "I'm not taking orders in my home." Sloane caps the bottle like setting down a trigger. She steps into the kitchen's citrus perfume snapping in the air. "Here's how this works," she says. "No more questions. When I ask, you do. Or the living arrangement ends today." Jack angles in over her shoulder. "Just decide, Mom. Don't make it a whole thing." On the corkboard by the fridge is a printout for the Wisconsin tenant hotline. In the drawer are the stamps I used for money orders when overtime wasn't enough. I know where the lines are. "All right," I say softer than I feel. Sloane smiles fast. "Good. Kitchen. I'll pack." Silence splits the apartment. The ring light hums. A radiator ticks. Sloane's smile drops a notch. Jack opens his mouth, then closes it. I wipe the water ring off the table with the side of my hand and walk down the hall. My room smells faintly of cedar. I pull a rolling suitcase from the closet and set it on the bed. Not much to take. A field trip Polaroid jack and a too big safety vest. The cardigan that fits under my coat. The little tin with aspirin and bandages. A paper crane my late husband once folded from a receipt while we waited for a tow truck. I slide a slim ledger into the suitcase pocket. Numbers don't argue. They show you what you did and what it cost. I zip the case paws, then tuck in wool socks and a paperback. On the way back, the hall feels longer. Sloane leans in the doorway, arms crossed. The polish bottle is capped and forgotten. Jack studies the floor. "Ma, he says he hasn't called me that in years." Seriously. I take my keyring slip off the apartment keys and set them in the ceramic dish we use for spare buttons. "You'll be fine." No one stops me. The elevator jitters and sighs. In the lobby, Rosa from the bakery is sliding a rack of donuts into the case. She spots my suitcase and tilts her chin. "Everything okay, Ms. Bennett? Could I rent your upstairs room for a bit week to week?" She looks me over the way women who've worked long hours look at one another, quick kind, no theater. It's small, clean. The radiator hisses like it's gossiping. "Cash on Fridays." "That will do." We climb the narrow stairs behind the bakery past flour sacks stacked like sandbags. The hallway smells like cinnamon and mop water. The room she unlocks has a single bed, a short dresser, and a window over the alley where the neon open sign throws a pink square on the opposite brick. The floor has one honest creak by the closet. The radiator hums in little breaths. It isn't home, but it isn't a battlefield either. Rosa leaves me with the key and the kind of half-hug that doesn't ask questions. I roll the suitcase to the wall and sit on the bed to test the springs. I pull back the curtain and watch a car nose into a parallel spot. On the bakery glass, a flyer for the Brady Street Fall Fest is taped at a slant. My phone buzzes on the quilt. Missed calls stack. A new text. "Where did you go?" I turn the phone face down and breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth, the way the counselor taught me the winter I learned to shovel alone. I slide the Polaroid into the top drawer so it won't curl. The paper crane goes on the dresser. I take off my shoes and line them by the door, salt stripes drying into pale maps. I stand still. The room doesn't tilt. It doesn't listen for anyone else's footsteps. Heat rises with the smell of sugar and the alley clatter settles. Through the wall, someone laughs, short, honest. I pour a glass of tap water and drink it standing. When I turn the deadbolt, the click isn't loud. It's enough. The radiator sings itself awake before I do a thin hiss, followed by a click like a tongue pressed to the roof of a mouth. Flour dust floats in the window light. Somewhere below, a mixer thumps, and Rosa laughs at something on the morning radio. I dress in yesterday's sweater, fold the quilt to square its corners, and set my ledger on the little dresser where the paper crane can watch me work. The phone shows a line of missed calls I don't open. I slide it to airplane mode and plug it into the wall by the bed face down. My hands know what to do when my head wants to stall. I take the cheap ballpoint from my purse, underline the date at the top of a ruled page, and write 2 words: paper trail. Rosa knocks once and cracks the door with a paper cup. Test batch of cinnamon cold brew, she says. Tell me if it's awful. It's exactly what I needed, I answer, because it is. I carry the cup to the window ledge and open my old laptop. The screen blooms to a familiar blue, a row of folders, the long memory of a life kept tidy. I make a new folder and name it Paper Trail in plain caps. Inside it, I save a blank document called Confirmations, and next to it a sheet with 4 columns, Time Action Company Code. The credit union puts me on hold behind a trumpet-heavy jazz loop. When a woman answers, she sounds like every morning teller I've stood across from, brisk practiced kind, unless you push. Shoreline Credit Union, this is Dinah. Good morning, I say. My name is Grace Bennett. My checking account ends in 93. I need to cancel the automatic rent transfer to Riverwest Apartments effective now. She asks for the usual full name, last 4. A phrase I picked when Jack still thought passcodes were funny slogans. Keys clack. She reads back the date of the next transfer and asks if I want a permanent stop. I tell her yes. She gives me a string of letters and numbers and repeats it twice. I repeat it back and write it in the box letters spaced like tiles. Anything else today, Ms. Bennett? Not right now. Thank you for being clear. I hang up and breathe. 1 line cut. Not a speech, not a scene, just a cord snipped and coiled out of reach. I type the action into the sheet and save before the cursor can blink off beat. The next call is to the phone company, where a script wants me to talk to a cheerful robot about my wireless journey. I keep whispering agent until a person picks up. 2 lines are on my account, I say. I want them removed today at noon. There are offers, and are you sure? And a slower tone when they realize I am sure. The rep reads me the device IDs. I confirm. We pick a time. She gives me a ticket number and a warning about proration. I note both, then click into the settings for every account I can remember and change passwords I've been meaning to change since winter. I add 2-factor where I never wanted to be bothered, type each new string into a square on paper, then into a password manager. I resisted until now. The repetition steadies me. I call Meridian Bank about a card I let grow too convenient. The authorized user comes off. The card is reissued. The department store account I never remember opening gets closed without ceremony. I end each call the same way. Thank you, I've written down the number, then copy the recordings of my own voice to the folder where the confirmations sleep side by side. By 9, the paper trail folder holds a column of files, screenshots of confirmations, PDFs of emails, a scan of the lease with the only name that's mine. I rename them with dates first, so they sort with the spine: 10/12 cancel autopay, 10/12 wireless 12 p.m., 10/12 visa reissue. The laptop fan hums. Cinnamon cools in the cup. My shoulders settle. When the administrative air thins, I open my checking register. Numbers step into place like chairs straightened after a meeting. A row of debit charges catches light high-dollar electronics, a boutique on Water Street I haven't set foot in, a series of buy now, pay later installments whose emails I must have swiped away without reading. Split pay, bright card, pay later. Different names, same promise. Take it home now, pretend the bill belongs to future you. I scroll and start a second spreadsheet, this one for transactions. Date, merchant, category, amount, notes. The pattern builds itself once I start typing. 2 purchases at Voltbox Electronics 3 days apart. Both followed 1 week later by returns in round amounts that make no sense for restocking. A beauty retailer with premium in its tagline. A home audio shop I knew only because Jack loved to lean over their subwoofer display when he was 15 and swear he could feel the bass in his teeth. I stop biting the inside of my cheek and take a picture of the screen with my phone just in case the page quits before I can hit print. Then I print anyway the little upstairs inkjet coughing pages like an old man clearing his throat. I lay the warm sheets next to the ledger and label each cluster with a sticky note that reads like a headline: Voltbox, purchase and return. Beauty boutique, gift card loop, split pay, 4-part installments. Downstairs, Rose's bell jingles. The alley door sighs. The smell of warm sugar nudges me out. I tuck the papers in a manila envelope and head down the back stairs to return the cup. "Have a cruller," Rosa says without looking up, sliding a pastry into a bag. "You look like you earned a prize." "Just making phone calls," I tell her. She lightly taps the bag with the back of her tongs. "Exactly." On the walk back, I nearly run into Mrs. Patel from the corner market. She pauses, adjusts her scarf, and peeks around the edge of my envelope the way a neighbor peeks into a casserole dish. "You moving again, Miss Bennett?" "Just organizing," I say. Her eyes skim my face and settle thoughtful. "I was going to call you," she says, lowering her voice like she's about to tell me the price of mangoes went back down. "Yesterday afternoon I saw your daughter-in-law come out of Voltbox with 2 flat boxes and the kind of smile I don't trust. Then she was back an hour later with the boxes sealed. My nephew works there a couple days. If you need a receipt copy, he can talk to his manager about printing something for the police." I steady the envelope against my hip. "Would you give him my number?" I write it on the back of a grocery receipt and pass it to her. If they can't give me copies, maybe they'll hold footage. She nods a small, serious tilt. "They like you at the school. People do things right for people who do things right." She pats my arm, already moving. "Come by for cilantro. I have extra." Back upstairs, I stack the transactions by merchant and pull up the BNPL emails I ignored. The subject lines read like party invitations. I strip them for facts, order numbers, payment schedules, store names. I forward the lot to a new address I make for this purpose, a simple one that I can say out loud without blushing grace. Bennett.records. Then I upload the PDFs to Papertrail and watch the progress bars march. My phone vibrates on the dresser, an unknown number. I let it die, then listen to the voicemail after 2 breaths. "Ms. Bennett. This is Miguel from Voltbox on North Avenue. My manager says we can't print customer receipts to third parties, but if there's an investigation, we'll pull POS logs and camera from the loading bay. We can tag the transactions under your card name and set them aside." I save the message and add a note to the sheet: Voltbox willing to cooperate, POS camera, Miguel 1042. I Google the address for the Milwaukee Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit and stare at the bus schedule as if it might object. It doesn't. I put on my coat and tuck the envelope under my arm. On the sidewalk, a man with a rolling suitcase glides past me with a look that says we are both exactly as alone as we appear, and also fine. The bus divides the morning into windows. Pizza Place is a shoe repair shop with a neon boot. A barber sweeping the same corner of the same floor. At the precinct, the lobby smells like copy paper and coffee burned thin. A young officer gestures at a clipboard and asks me to circle a purpose. I circle credit bank fraud and add possible ID misuse store card. Detective Lila Morgan shakes my hand in a small office with thumbtacks everywhere. She has a pen tucked behind her ear and a desk half paper, half disciplined piles. She doesn't hurry me. I set the envelope on her desk, then add the folder of printouts, and when that looks lonely, I open my laptop to the paper trail folder and slide it toward her. "I'm not accusing anyone of anything I can't show," I say, "but these are my accounts." She flips through the pages, nodding as if following a song she knows the chords to. Voltbox, Beauty Boutique, Split Pay. The returns are interesting. She taps a finger on one line. Round number cash outs through gift cards will show as returns on the POS, not refunds to the original card. Did you notice whether any of these returns map to gift card purchases at neighboring stores? I map them to ATM deposit timestamps, I say, and point to another page. Cash went in within an hour a couple of times, same pocket of the city. She whistles under her breath, more appreciation than surprise. "May I make copies? And do you consent to a formal report?" "Yes and yes." She pulls a pre-printed affidavit from a file and turns it so it faces me. I read each clause, initial the boxes one by one. She takes down my statement in tidy block letters. When she asks for names, I give them without embroidery. When she asks for relationship, I use the word that applies, and no other. The stapler hits the paper with a square certainty that calms me more than it should. "Here's the case number," she says, writing it on a pale green card. "If Voltbox calls, give them this. If they'll hold video from the loading bay, that helps. We'll request POS log signatures, any BNPL account openings tied to your email or address. Keep your documents digital and hard copy. Label dates first. You're already ahead of me." I almost say I've been a school treasurer long enough to fear audits in my sleep. Instead, I nod. "Thank you for reading," I say. She smiles, quick and real. "You'd be surprised how hard reading is for some people. You made it easy." When I leave the building, the sun has put a bright edge on the cold. The bus bench is full, so I walk 2 blocks to the next stop and pass a thrift store that's set 3 lamps on the sidewalk like sentries. I imagine which of them might fit in the upstairs room and then decide a lamp is not a thing I need to carry today. My pocket holds the green card, its ink not yet set. I press it flat with my palm so it won't smear. Back on the bus, a toddler in a bare-eared hat stares at me with the frankness of the newly ambulatory. I stare back until he squeals and hides in his mother's coat. A few blocks before my stop, I pull the cord and stand the envelope warm against my side from being held so long. Rosa is bagging a box of cookies for a man in a reflective vest. She nods toward the back stairs when she sees the envelope. Good hunting. Good paperwork, I say. She clicks her tongue like a grandmother. Even better. Upstairs, I set the envelope on the dresser next to the crane and open the laptop again. An email from Shoreline hits my inbox with the subject line, Autopay Canceled Confirmation. I save the attached PDF to Paper Trail and rename it with the date first. The radiator hisses and quiets. I stack the fresh copies in the manila envelope in the same order I'll want to reach for them if someone asks me to prove what's mine. When the room goes still, it isn't empty. It holds my breath, the hum in the walls, the faint rattle of pans downstairs, the tap-tap of a pigeon landing on the fire escape. I write the case number on the inside cover of my ledger just once and close it without underlining. Then I wash my cup, wipe the sink with the back of my hand, and sit on the bed until the tension in my shoulders loosens into something I can carry. By late morning, my phone is a stack of rectangles lighting and going dark, a polite question from Jack about a glitch with rent, 2 clipped texts from Sloan Phones and Fix This. A number with a corporate tone leaves a voicemail saying, "Please contact our office about a past due balance." I put the device face down beside the ledger and let the radiator's sigh fill the room. Rosa knocks with a brown bag and no commentary. The donut inside is still warm. I eat half standing up and put the other half on a napkin so the sugar won't find the papers. The green card from Detective Morgan's office sits where I can see it. I don't need to call. I already did the thing that required a call. The next ring comes from a local exchange I don't recognize. When I answer, Jack's voice is tight, trying to sound easy and landing somewhere near pleading. Mom, autopay disappeared. The landlord called me. Is something wrong with your bank? I canceled it this morning, I say. Shoreline sent confirmation. Silence rubs against the line. In the pause, I hear a car door slam and someone laugh too loud nearby. Why, he asks, like the question might be a substitute for all the other questions. Because I'm not paying it anymore. He lets out a little breath through his teeth. Could you give us a week just to reset everything? No. I expect the burst. Sloan gets there first. Her voice comes in from somewhere near the receiver. You're being cruel on purpose. You're embarrassing us. I'm not talking to you, I say, and I hang up. My hand shakes once. The radiator ticks. The upstairs light dries the sugar glaze into a shell. A minute later, the phone lights again, same number. I silence it, put it on the sill, and pick up my manila envelope. The air outside has turned sharp and sunny, the kind of fall day that makes people decide to buy apples by the half bushel. I cut west 2 blocks to the River West Community Center, where the gym smells like floor polish and rubber soles. On the bulletin board, there's a flyer for the Brady Street Fall Fest with cartoon pumpkins lined up like recruits. Coach Walker, broad shoulders, steady eyes, spots me before I can invent a reason to loiter. Miss Bennett, he says, crossing the floor with the gait of a man who has broken up arguments on every square foot of this gym. Heard you left the building. I did, I say. He glances at the envelope. You look like you brought homework, just documents. I rest the envelope on the check-in desk and keep my voice even. If someone asks why I moved, I can answer in 1 sentence and show my papers in 2. He studies me the way a shop teacher studies a joint to see if it will hold. Then he nods at the multi-purpose room. Kids are in the art corner. Adults are arguing about the Packers. You want me to say anything on your behalf? No speeches, I say. If questions come up, tell them I have receipts. That I can do. On my way out, a teen in a volunteer t-shirt with paint on the hem holds the door with his hip and says, "Nice shoes." The shoes are old. I take the compliment. Yeah. The festival pulls the neighborhood into one street-wide curtain call stands with braided breads and jars of pickles. A folk trio under a pop-up tent tuning their instruments, a toddler face down in a hay bale extracting a plastic ring. The air holds cinnamon and grill smoke. People I know from 100 small errands nod and then look at my hands the way people do when they expect a story and hope it won't come with shouting. I buy a hot cider and wrap both palms around it. At the corner where the jewelry seller always sets up a familiar shape steps into the traffic of bodies and sunlight. Sloan wears sunglasses that pretend it's July, her hair set in a glossed wave. Her phone is mounted to a small grip. A red dot glows. She lifts it toward me at a flattering angle designed for someone else's face. There she is, she says, bright enough to carry. Grace Bennett. If you're watching, this is what elder abuse looks like. A few heads turn. The folk trio stops tuning. Someone's dog huffs and settles onto its belly, bored by the drama already. I take 1 step to the side so the wind isn't in the microphone, and so I can see the sky past the edge of her glasses. I filed a fraud report with the Milwaukee Police Department, I say, voice steady. If anyone has questions about my finances, they can ask Detective Lila Morgan. This is her card. I hold the green rectangle so the numbers don't show, just the seal and the title. Sloane slides the camera closer. "You cut off our phones and rent with no warning," she says to the lens. "She's been coerced by people at the bank. She doesn't think clearly anymore." I take the manila envelope from under my arm, pull 2 pages, and read without looking at her. October 12th. Cancelled automatic rent transfer at Shoreline confirmation number Q8R11C72. October 12th. Removed 2 wireless lines at noon ticket number 461935. These are my accounts. My name is on the lease. A woman with a toddler on her hip rocks in place to keep the child content and says to no one in particular, "Sounds like paperwork." Sloane laughs short and pretty. She memorized a script. She's lying about who took what. I don't describe the returns. I don't say the store names. I don't say we, because I don't owe we to this moment. I tuck the pages back into the envelope and secure the little metal clasp, as if fastening a coat against a cold that is not supposed to arrive this early. Pastor Reed steps near, not in church clothes, just a windbreaker and a knit hat. He puts one palm up without touching either of us. "Ladies," he says, "this is a community event. Take private business private." Sloane pivots the phone toward him, and then back toward me, searching for the angle that gives her the better story. The folk trio begins a song as if to drown us out. People ease past, choosing cider over spectacle. I meet Sloane's glasses instead of her eyes, so I won't see myself small and distorted. "If you have a grievance, I say you can file it at the courthouse. I'll bring my papers." She holds the phone like a shield. "You're going to regret this." Maybe I say. I don't raise my voice. "Not today." She lowers the camera, turns, and vanishes into the cluster of booths where the air smells like kettle corn and old pennies. The red dot on the phone disappears when she drops it to her side. I breathe once and taste cinnamon and metal. Pastor Reed squeezes my shoulder and releases it. The trio slides into a waltz. I finish the cider even though it has gone lukewarm and toss the cup into the barrel by the curb. Back at the bakery, Rosa stands with both hands on the counter watching the street through the glass. "Fall Fest is always loud," she says. "Louder some years." Today was one of the loud ones, I say. She taps the side of the pastry case. When people get loud out front, I check the camera. Keeps time in order. She lifts her chin toward the corner where a little dome watches over the register in the door. "Feeds go back 90 days, just so you know." I thank her. Go upstairs and write a single line on the sheet where I've been listing actions. Public confrontation at Fall Fest, witnesses Pastor Reed, others 10-12. The act of making it a line like the others downsizes it to something the manila envelope can hold. Near dusk, an engine idles in the alley. The note sits one tone too low to be neighborly. It stays, then backs up, then creeps forward until the open sign throws its pink square across a hood. I stand behind the curtain seam and breathe. Rosa's words about cameras sit at my shoulder like a hand. The engine goes. I keep standing until my knees remember they're allowed to bend. I scrub my cup with dish soap until the rust line disappears. I set the green card from the detective next to the envelope and tuck both into the top drawer. The room takes the weight of the day without complaining. Through the wall, someone drops a metal pan and laughs at the noise it made. Monday arrives through fluorescence and a line of people holding folders like shields. The courthouse clerk wears a sweater with a pumpkin brooch. I fill out a request for a temporary restraining order. The form asks for dates and behaviors and distances that count as near. I print neat. I do not run out of words. When it's my turn, the clerk stamps the first page with a thought that echoes, then staples 3 copies and slides them back to me. "Temporary order granted," she says in a voice that has said the same thing to strangers all morning. "A deputy will handle service." I fold 1 copy into my envelope, tuck 1 into my purse, and leave the 3rd flat in the folder in case someone wants to see it without touching it. On the steps, the sky is the blue of a new spiral notebook. I hold the envelope close enough to warm. My phone rings before I reach the bus stop. Jack's number. I answer. "Mom." His voice is rough. "Can you please pick up when I call? This is serious." "I'm walking," I say. "Sloane's sick," he says. "She's pregnant. The stress is bad for her. We need help with co-pays and the rent until I can add hours. You can just give us cash for now and we'll square it." I stop beside a planter where something once cheerful is now a tangle of stems. A bus exhales and pulls away. "Which clinic?" I ask. "I'll put funds on account directly with the office. Give me the doctor's name and appointment time." There is a silence so exact I can hear him searching for a version of the story that fits the shape of the request. A car honks. A shoe scuffs cement. "It's early," he says. "We don't have an appointment yet. When you have one, I say text me the details." He doesn't say goodbye. The line goes quiet with a soft click that lands heavier than it should. I slide the phone into my coat pocket and watch a woman in a red hat adjust a dog's sweater with careful hands. In my purse, paper edges press against palm and pen and the faint sweetness of the bakery downstairs. The courthouse door opens and shuts, a rhythm that feels like breathing if you stand there long enough. I cross the street and head for the bus, the envelope snug against my side where the heat can't quite escape. By the time the bus sighs me back to River West, the sky has thinned to a pale ribbon over the roofs. I climb the bakery stairs, unlock the door, and set the manila envelope on the dresser like it needs to catch its breath. The phone buzzes as if it held its message until it could see me. A text from Detective Morgan: order served, subject upset, left location on foot, if contacted save messages. I read it twice, then lay the green card beside the ledger. The radiator ticks like a wristwatch. An email pings Mr. Levine, the landlord. The subject line is the kind he uses when he wants to sound brave and can't documentation request clarification. The body is precise. Miss Bennett, please confirm your name is the only one on the lease for 3B and on all payments received. We've had an inquiry about tenant rights from a person not on file. I reply with 2 sentences and attach 8 months of scanned receipts. The send button makes a soft pop. A minute later, his thank you lands with a copy to his assistant subject changed to lease verified. Something settles in my shoulders that isn't exactly relief, more like a bolt seated into wood. Downstairs, Rose's bell chirps 3 short notes. I crack the window. Street noise braids itself with the clatter of pans and the hum of the case. My phone lights again, a number I don't know. I let it go to voicemail and listen after. Ms. Bennett, this is Deputy Harris, following up on a claim we heard secondhand regarding a pregnancy. We contacted the clinic given to us. No records under that name. If you receive evidence to the contrary, please forward. I sit on the bed and press the heel of my hand against my sternum until my breath evens. The upstairs room holds the sound without magnifying it. I write a line on my sheet. Deputy check no clinic records and date it. The act of writing trims the story down to what fits in ink. Before noon, my phone rings with a name I recognize for all the ordinary reasons: Riverbend Roasters. I used to grade spelling tests there, stirring too much sugar into a medium drip. The manager lowers his voice as if talking behind a curtain. Miss Bennett, I'm sorry. We let Jack go this morning. Too many customers asking questions, and he's missed some shifts. He needs a clear slate. I keep my voice even. Thank you for telling me. We're not the enemy, he says, awkward with kindness. Tell him to pick up his last check after close. After the call, I pull the little paper crane closer and set it on the corner of the ledger like a paperweight that weighs nothing and still helps. The room inches back to size. Heat climbs the radiator, then falls away. The afternoon slips into a careful quiet the city sometimes grants between school dismissal and dinner. From the alley, a trunk thuds shut. I go to the window. Below, Sloane stacks 2 shoebox-sized cartons into the back seat and slams the door with her hip. Her sunglasses hide half her face, but the set of her mouth reads like a headline. She doesn't look up. The car pulls into the lane, pauses as if deciding, then turns away from the river. I back from the glass and mark a line. Observe departure boxes, vehicle southbound. It feels strange to write like an officer, stranger still how the tone steadies my hands. Toward evening, Mr. Levine forwards a message from the building's front office. Attempted to add occupant after the fact. Denied. File notes updated. He doesn't add commentary. He doesn't have to. I answer with received. We are 2 people who prefer records to adjectives. Rosa knocks without waiting and holds up a bakery bag like an offering. Leftover rye, she says. The good kind. We eat a slice each at my little dresser with a butter packet filched from the cafe. She doesn't ask questions. She points with her chin at the envelope. Still thick. Thicker, I say. She pushes the bag closer. Keep it that way. After she leaves the room is a shoebox of warm air and paper. I clean the knife with a square of brown napkin, rinse my cup, then sit on the bed with my coat still on. I hear a siren drag itself down the avenue and fade. I smell sugar and rye, and the faint metallic thread of autumn coming in under the sill. The next morning arrives with a fraud alert from a department store card I never used on purpose. Application received, pending verification. I forward it to Detective Morgan with the case number in the subject line. Her reply is short. Got it. We'll subpoena any apps opened with your identifiers. At the community center, Coach Walker is lining up cones for a youth skills practice. I wait until he's done setting the last orange triangle and then step over. Do you have 5 minutes? For you, I have 10, he says. He can spot a conversation that needs a table. We take the small room with the dry erase board and a window on the gym. Jack arrives 5 minutes in, hat pulled low, hands jammed into his jacket like they might bolt. He doesn't sit until Coach nods at the chair. I lost the job, Jack says. They said customers were... He fumbles for the word. Curious. Coach says. What are you here to do? Jack looks at me, then away. Tell the truth. He speaks in bursts, like someone learning to breathe between laps. He describes the returns. He says the names of 2 stores and a third he wasn't sure about because he didn't swipe that card himself. When he stumbles, he doesn't make a new story. He waits and starts again. Coach writes on the board, dates, amounts, source, responsibility. The columns give the room a spine. You've got choices, Coach says, when the markers squeak to a stop. None of them fixed last month. All of them live this month. You want to set terms with your mother, set them like terms, not favors. Jack nods. He pulls a folded sheet from his pocket, creases worn white where his thumbs have worried them. I wrote some down, he says, sliding it across the table. It isn't elegant, it is legible. 4 amounts next to 4 quarters, a start date, a paycheck cut for the first step. I read it. No cash, I say. No cash, he repeats. Direct to bills. I'll show the receipts. Coach taps the board with the marker cap. You want somebody to hold you to it? Pick someone who'll check, Grace. I'll check, I say. Jack's jaw tightens, then loosens. He nods once, a nod that belongs to him. He signs the bottom of the sheet without being told to. The pen leaves a small comment where he presses too hard at the end of his name. We walk out through the gym. A boy in a green hoodie dribbles a ball too high and chases it with a grin that refuses to quit. Outside, the air has slipped toward cold. Jack stops near the steps. Coffee Saturday, he asks, and the words carry their own little politeness like he's borrowed them clean. Saturday, I say. No cash. He huffs a laugh through his nose. No cash. He heads toward the bus stop with his hands out of his pockets, shoulders not quite as high. I watch until he clears the corner, then turn back toward the center because there's a woman at the bulletin board smoothing a flyer for a coat drive, and I know her from the early reading group. We exchange the kind of nod that holds a small bundle of years inside it. Back upstairs, I slide Jack's sheet into a plastic sleeve and file it behind the TRO copy, then behind the lease receipts, then behind the case number card. The order pleases me in a way that feels more physical than tidy. The radiator answers with a soft, come and go. The paper crane perches on the envelope like it knows it belongs there. When the room catches the last clean light of afternoon, I open the window 2 inches and let it in. The alley magnifies the city without inviting it too far. A woman from the laundromat carries a blue basket the size of a band drum and sets it down on the step with a sound you feel more than hear. Somewhere a dog barks once. Somewhere a door closes with the certainty of wood meeting frame. I turn the deadbolt and listen to the click travel the length of the door. The room holds. The week folds into small workable pieces. Receipts slipped into plastic sleeves, copies labeled with the date, first coffee in a paper cup, warm enough to steady my hands. The TRO sits in the envelope between the lease scans and the green card from the detective, like a stiff-backed chaperone. Rosa leaves a sprig of mint in a jelly jar on my windowsill, because the upstairs air could use something alive. On Wednesday, Mr. Levine forwards a message from a broker about a tired duplex 2 streets over, once yellow, now the color of old paper. I walk past it at noon. The front steps sag in the middle. A kid's chalk line still ghosts the walk. The for sale sign tilts left, stubborn against a breeze. I stand long enough to measure the windows with my eyes and the distance from the bus stop with the rest of me. 2 weeks later, a banner reads, Keys and Kindling Fund, in letters Rosa traced from a flour sack stencil. Inside, volunteers tape off baseboards with blue painter's tape. Coach Walker sets a level on a shelf and squints at the bubble until it sits dead center. Detective Morgan arrives in plainclothes hair tucked behind one ear and says she's on her lunch break. She carries a bag of screws like a talisman. We work. Paint fills the rooms with the smell of something beginning. A choir of rollers thrum against the walls. The old kitchen takes the soft shine of a clean plate. Someone sets a thrifted table under the window where light lands like a permission slip. The back door swells a little in the frame. We sand it until it closes without argument. By afternoon, 3 mothers step across the threshold with the careful gait of people who've been told to be small in other buildings. Their names fit in my mouth as if I've said them before, Tiana Hawame. We show them the locks. We show them the heat that answers. A baby's sock appears from someone's pocket like a white flag. Hawa laughs and tucks it into her sleeve. I open a small tin and lay 3 keys in a row, their teeth uneven, their heads bright. 6 months, I say, voice even. Rent is 0 for 6 months. Utilities sorted through the fund. Your name's on the doors. The room answers with human sounds, the rustle of a diaper bag, the shift of a stroller wheel, a breath you can hear. Coach Walker ties the banner straight and clears his throat. Neighbors, he says, and that's enough. People clap with the soft palms you use inside houses. Detective Morgan shakes my hand and nods toward the keys with an unreadable look that lands somewhere quiet. When the little cluster disperses, I stay to wipe paint drips off the floor. The wood shows its years and keeps them. I close each window and test each latch before turning the front door deadbolt and feeling the bolt travel cleanly home. Outside, the streetlight throws a sensible circle. I lock the gate and pocket the ring with a weight that doesn't ask anything of me. Saturday morning, I meet Jack at the diner half a mile from the duplex, the one with a mural of a lake that remembers a bluer decade. He's early. A folder sits square on the table, edges unfrayed. He turns it so the tab faces me and rests his fingertips on the cardboard like he's holding a cord steady. First quarter, he says. 3 pay stubs, 2 receipts with the ink still chemical sharp, a note from his counselor on lined paper with the perforation still attached. He does not narrate it. He lets the paper speak. We drink coffee that could strip paint and split a plate of toast. He looks better in the way that has nothing to do with clothes, eyes clear, shoulders set to their own height. When the check comes, he reaches first and I let him. At the door he asks, "Same time next week?" "Same table," I say. Back upstairs, the bakery smells like cinnamon and clean floors. Rosa is in a chair for the first time all day, reading a paperback with a broken spine. She waves without looking up and points at a brown bag on the counter. "End pieces," she says. "Best for butter." In my room, the mint has taken to its small water with ambition. I feel a glass break a leaf between my fingers and let the sharp green cut through the sweetness that lives in the walls. The ledger waits on the dresser with the case number tucked inside the cover. I slide Jack's first quarter page behind the TRO copy and the lease receipts in the order my hand likes to find them. Evening leans in. The alley trades its daytime rattle for a quieter set of sounds. The hydraulic sigh of a closing truck door, a laugh that can afford to drop a little. Somewhere a train takes its time across the river. I wash my cup and leave it upside down on the towel. I set the extra key to the duplex on the hook beside the door where I can see it when I reach for my coat. When I turn the deadbolt, the click walks the length of the door and back again. The mint breathes. The radiator answers. The room keeps its shape. The key on the hook reflects a sliver of the window and gives it back. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.